just tawdry and because your
Well, it
character is
was a little
tawdry.
easier to be tawdry back then. Now, with the everyone's on a phone, and with the apps and all of that, you can just order in. You know what I mean? You don't have
Yeah.
to leave your house.
Welcome to Mind Your Is-NESS. In today's episode, an international icon in the world of drag who continues to entertain and inspire, sharing her style, sensibility, and hilarity, serving up parodies, original shows, comedy specials, music, videos, short films, and a whole lot more. Miss Sherry Vine. As I live and breathe.
Hi. Oh my
Hey.
God, you look so much more professional than
Oh,
I do
no.
with a microphone and
You know what? On a budget,
well, honey, I know.
I've got cheap lights and foil, and you know,
During the
I,
pandemic, I had lights and microphones and everything, and I finally took it all down.
you know what? I mean, because you can now. I mean, just like, look, let's just do the damn thing. That's how I
Yeah,
feel, you know.
yeah.
And how lovely for you to just come au natural this morning.
Just a little lip gloss.
Just a little gloss. Sherry, it is just a delight. I know, because I know you're busy because, here's to the hookers who brunch. Um,
Cheers to that.
cheers. But I'm just really glad you had some time in your schedule just to give a holla. This podcast, Mind Your Isness, is really just me calling friends and associates and acquaintances around the world, just going, how you is?
Great. I love that's how a podcast should be.
And I thought about you because I don't know. It's one of those things where like Sherry's been on my mind. You've been on my mind a lot.
Really?
And I've been thinking because to my brain always goes to before Drag Race, to when there was only a handful of y'all out there now
They're really,
doing the round the world kind of thing, right?
yeah. I mean, literally, there are like four or five of us. I mean, it was certainly the ones that like performed internationally. The most, I think, were like Bunny, Jackie, Varla, and me.
Yeah, yeah.
And Shaquita. I think like Shaquita certainly did a lot. Like she was the first drag queen I knew from the United States that went and did shows in Tel Aviv and stuff. So yeah, it was like, but it was literally on one hand you could count.
Yeah. Yeah. That was it. Those were different times then. Y'all were in the trenches back in those days.
I know. I mean, it's funny because now I've been doing this for 31 years now. I say 30 years because
How's that possible when you're only 29?
I know. Look closer.
I'm like, check your math.
Don't get the abacus out, honey. The, but like for 31 years, it's like now these younger queens like, oh, thank you for paving the way, and I'm like, what? I kind of still look up to Charles Bush, Holly Woodlawn, Divine, Vaginal Cream Davis,
Oh
like
my
these
God.
performers that were my inspiration when I started doing drag.
Right, because you didn't begin, you weren't a little kid going, I'm going to be a drag queen. You weren't even the young 20 going, I want to be a drag. How did that come about?
Definitely not. I mean, I always liked dressing up in drag, so I would do it for Halloween and stuff, and it would just be for fun.
Sure.
And then when I was in my graduate program, I actually have a master's degree in fine art and in theater. And I don't, do you know the actress Anna Devere Smith? She was on Nurse Jackie and she's done lots of movies. She's amazing,
Mm, mm.
brilliant actress. And she does a lot of TV and film, but she also does a lot of theater. And she would focus on like the Crown Heights riots
Got
and
you.
giving like but she would play all the characters. So anyway, she was our guest teacher my last semester of grad school, and one of the assignments was to spend time with three real people, journalize like the conversations and stuff, and then have to write monologues that were dramatic and theatrical about these people. Really different. I picked like this had a straight Wall Street type guy, and I picked this kind of nerdy artistic director who actually did the art design stuff for Pee Wee's Playhouse, and then this drag queen from 4 Star, which was before Mickey's, in West Hollywood. And when I performed in drag for this, Anna DeVere Smith pulled me aside and she's like, you should explore that.
Oh, no
She's like, I think
kidding.
I think you tapped into something. And so that's how I kind of got the bug to start performing in drag.
Wow. That, that is just, it's so divinely random because, I was in West Hollywood in those days, so I remember you, as many of us do, and it was always such an amazing phenomenon. I think that's also because you had that East Coast background as well, so you weren't like the normal thing that folks were seeing. You had a different approach to this stuff, because you were like, wait, you were not born in Maryland, but you were up there, right?
Well, we moved there when I was like 6 months. So
Oh,
essentially, I
right.
grew up outside in the suburbs of Baltimore. Well, then I came here to go to Los Angeles for college, and then I went to New York, and now I'm back
Got you, got you. So you didn't start doing drag in New York. You started doing drag in the U.S.
in Los
I mean,
Angeles.
in the
I like
U.S.
this.
New York versus the U.S.
New York's not part of the U.S.
Yeah,
Yeah, this full circle. 30 years later, I'm back here, kind of where it started, and where I met Jackie Beat. I mean,
yeah,
I was only performing in drag for like a month when I met Jackie Beat, and we just kind of cut from the same cloth.
sure.
Because I love, this is not like it's not a read or a diss at all. Because I love lip syncing to Whitney Houston drag queens. I love that. That's just
Sure.
not what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And it was really hard to kind of find a place in West Hollywood, especially at that time,
Sure.
for what we were doing. Anyway, I met Jackie, who was like doing beat poetry readings in these coffee houses,
Right.
and we were just like clicked, and we started doing things together. But again, there was no bar in West Hollywood that wanted us, so we were performing at these kind of alternative gay clubs in Silver Lake, like Club Fuck,
Uh-huh.
Cinematic, Trade, and then like Highways, LATC, performance art spaces, and we were doing more like kind of theatrical, writing these kind of sketches and singing live, and it was just different.
Amazingly, you guys were able to sustain what you were doing in the way you did it. I mean, but those were, I mean, let's face it, those were tougher times.
Well, you couldn't. I don't think you could make a living performing in drag in Los Angeles 30 years ago. I
Oh,
mean, we all had side
no.
jobs.
I mean, just to be a drag queen, that was like, it's one thing to be, gay, but then when you are like, whether you always wanted to be or whether you kind of fell into it and then loved it like you did, that's another layer of that world that's not always taken in,
No, I mean, honey,
especially then.
a lot of people don't remember, but Jackie and I do. There were gay bars in West Hollywood that would not let you in drag.
Wow.
Like the Rage, you could go on Mondays because it was, new wave night or whatever. But there were gay bars and clubs that you could not go to in drag. They did not want drag queens there. We were always hanging out at Jules anywhere because they had like the best music, and we were welcomed there.
The whole drag race phenomenon, that's the biggest elephant in everybody's room when it comes to drag.
Yeah.
What are your take, your pros, your cons, your yin, your yang on the whole drag race phenomenon?
Well, it's kind of evolved over the course of the show. I mean, part of me is so like, oh, I wish they had that show 20 years ago.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because what an
Sure.
amazing platform to launch a career. They're super famous. They're making
career.
tons of money. And it would have been like, of course, everyone's like, oh, why don't you go on Drag Race? I'm like, honey, I can't go on there now. I'm like twice as old as everybody. And I've been doing this for longer than most of them have been alive.
Right.
So I feel like Jackie, Varla, Coco, we can't go on there unless they did a special Golden Girlz season. Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be amazing. because
So
you
cool.
know, I did go to that little basement below the Mexican restaurant.
Casita.
Casita.
Yeah.
What a what a wacky, fun venue
There's nothing
to
like it.
see you do what you do with that show. How how did that come about, and when are we going to see that again?
Well, we're there all the time. I mean, we do the Golden Girls there twice a year. We just did it in January, and our special guest was Ben de la Creme. And then we're doing it for 2 weeks in August. Um, so there's always, I mean, I'm going there next Sunday to see Dina Martina.
Ah,
So, we're
lovely.
still doing lots of stuff there.
Now your homegirl, one of your many homegirls, is going to be here because I'm in Mexico City right now, and
I was just in Puerto Vallarta. Oh,
you
I've
know
never been
what?
to Mexico City.
Right, I saw that. I was like looking at your schedule, and I was like, wait a minute, she was just in Puerto Vallarta, and Bianca is supposed to be here. I think. I
Yes, she just finished performing in Brazil. She's on a whole South Central America tour. I know she's getting to Mexico City, but I think that's at the end of the tour. They just started in Sao Paulo. Uh,
okay,
they
but I
don't
just.
have an opening act for that one, so I was like, "Ooh,
Hmm.
we're gonna get in trouble down there."
I
Ooh,
mean, what of your friends, including Joey, who I just chatted with
the
a couple of
goddess.
days ago, who do you think you've been in who I'm thinking of what's the most volatile combination between you and your closest girls? Who would be the one that you're like, oh, that's trouble when we're together?
Oh, that kind of trouble.
That
Well, there's no doubt that Joey was like my partner in crime at the time. I mean, both of us have kind of, graduated from that for the most part, but I could write a book on the 1990s of traveling around the world with Joey Ayers. I mean, really scandalous, really fun. Oh my God, we had so much fun, literally around the world. Joey's certainly, not my Raven O is my drag mother, but Joey was certainly instrumental on so many levels. I mean, she's the one who saw me performing when I first moved to New York. Said, "You should come and perform at Bordeaux with us." And then she
Mm,
was the first one to take me to Europe, working with her, and we talk almost every other day. I mean,
wow.
we text every day. I mean, she's
These are
just
these
honest.
these are these iconic figures that pop up into my mind when I think of drag queen, as far as especially America, USA, um, and it's an interesting morph that has happened. And there are a few of the old school hookers who are still
Yeah.
who are still not just not just viable, but thriving, even if it's not always financially, but thriving in that world of drag, which is
Oh,
really
yeah. I mean,
wonderful to see.
I feel really lucky and blessed. I know it's a combination of a lot of work, perseverance, and all that, but it's
Sure.
also I feel very lucky and blessed to still be doing it. And there was a time at the peak of Drag Race. I mean, it's still peaking, but I mean, like in the middle,
Sure.
where me, Jackie, Varla, and Coco, I think we're having lunch, and we were just like, no one wants us. What
Mm.
is going to happen to us? And it was just a brief moment of kind of, I literally was panicked, like, no one wants to book. They're only booking queens from Drag Race. And that's kind of what inspired, and certainly Varla and Coco have much more of a theatrical, they're not bar club queens, they're more
Right.
theatrical. So they weren't as worried, but they were just like, oh yeah, we're still here. But Jackie and I, who kind of were on a trajectory more like bar club stuff,
Mm.
and after my Gaga stuff on YouTube, certainly was like bar club shows where I was making really good money. But then all of a sudden, there was like, oh, they don't want it anymore. Well,
Mm.
that's what inspired Jackie and I to be like, let's do the Golden Girls, let's do more theater, kind of get back to our roots, if you will.
Yeah.
And then also, when there's queens like Bianca, Alaska, Willem, Jinx, who want to work with us, then that helps. kind of introduced us to a new audience. I tour all over opening for Bianca, and 98% of the audience, they don't know who I am. It's been really great.
Yeah, that's amazing that there's that crossover expansion. Now, let me just say, there's a certain level of substance, and I know that comes from harder times. That you got to have that grit. When someone says, "Oh," "Oh, Sherry, I want to be just like you," and then I wonder what goes through your head.
Not a lot of people say that. That's just like, oh, I recently had a queen text me that I met once in the Midwest, and she texted me the other night, literally the other night, and she was like, "I want your career. I want to go places like you go." And I said, "Write a show, and the first thing you have to have is an act." So, when younger queens are like, "Oh, I want to do what you do," I'm like, "You should. Great, write an act."
You've helped a lot. You've been helping folks write stuff, right? I mean, you've helped people with their act who have,
Oh,
have been on Drag Race trying to go,
yeah,
haven't you?
totally. Yeah, oh yeah. Jackie and I wrote Brooklyn Heights show, her last show before the pandemic. It was
Hmm.
her holiday show. We wrote that for her. We wrote a show for Eureka, but she's been so busy, and then the pandemic. But hopefully she'll get back to that. And I've written parodies for queens like around the world.
Yeah. Have you ever ventured to count how many you've written? I can't even imagine.
How many parodies? Oh my God, no. Hundreds. I mean, I've written hundreds that never saw the light of day.
I would imagine. You know what? I actually thought that.
Oh,
Like,
honey, for every one that I consider like a hit, like, oh, this works, for every one, there's 10 that stink.
what did you do? Did you just say, okay, we're just going to write one every day, kind of thing? You must. I mean, it had to be some craziness
Well,
like that.
sometimes I get inspired, you hear something, you get an idea, and you're like, I got to sit down and write this right now. And then sometimes, like, I've been doing it for so long that just like this year in particular, 2022, I have found it a little challenging to get inspired to write parodies, because I just kind of like, I want to do something else,
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I can't do a show at this point. People are coming to see me to laugh, and so
Yeah.
that's my job, which is great. I love being like the Carol Burnett of drag,
Yeah. There's no doubt about
sometimes
it.
it takes a little more inspiring. So actually, April, I have a list right here on my screen top of
Mm.
10 parodies that I want to write this month. And like I said, maybe one of them is a hit.
Right. When you leave this realm, when they go through your archives.
A lot. I mean, God, I save everything. And once in a while,
Truly.
I'll go through the whole list of all the ones I've written and just be like, oh, maybe now's the right time, or I could tweak it. And there's some that I'm like, girl, what?
Let me ask you about the Sherry Vine. How the Sherry Vine emerged into the Sherry Vineness that
Well,
she
I'll send you
is.
a photo of the early Sherry Vine. It was really different. And I really felt like I had to look funny to be funny.
Ah, interesting.
So I didn't wear breasts. I didn't I mean, the look was not polished in any way. It was just kind of like, I'm a clown.
Hmm.
And then in New York, I was working with Raven and Joey and living with Candace Kane and hanging out with Lena and Formica and all these queens who were just like stunning.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Joey Aritz's makeup, it's like
It's
painting.
it. Yeah. It is sculpture. It's
It's
beauty
so,
incarnate.
and Raven, my drag mother would just be like, line your fucking lips, put some makeup on your legs, and it just kind of evolved. And then I started kind of getting a lot of attention. Certainly at the time, I was just skinny, young, pretty thing.
Yeah.
And I was getting a lot of attention from straight men. And I was like, oh, I like this. But at the same time, I was kind of like, all right, let me kind of evolve this look. I want to look like a Las Vegas sex kitten, but still be funny.
Yeah.
And I remember getting a lot of shit from like Misunderstood, some of these other queens that I was friends with at the time in the early 90s in New York City, who were just like, don't go to the dark side. You can still, you don't have to be pretty, and I use that word loosely,
I
pretty
understand.
to be funny. Don't do it. But I just really wanted to. For me, I was like, I want to come out with a look and then sing about poo.
And it's been working for 30 years. There's a fun, glamorous thing. It's this combo of fun, glamorous, upper crusty, but at the same time would sit on the curb and eat fried chicken. I mean, it's like
Totally. Honey, hello. Yes. Tattered glamour. I call it tattered glamour.
I'm loving that. Tattered glamour. Yeah, that's absolutely it. Yeah, I can't tell you how much I appreciate, everything that you do. And I've been curious about how you incorporate like I know that you are just seeing what you do, you're an actor. You're an actress when you're being an actress, but that actor, is the actor getting any breath, getting any life breathed into him?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, Sherry Vine's totally a character.
Sure.
And so anytime I perform, I feel like I'm acting.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, certainly doing the Golden Girls and the theater stuff that Jackie and I have been working on. And, we just filmed like 2 TV shows back to back.
Yes.
My show, the Sherry Vine Variety Show, and her show, Dr. Jackie, which comes out in May, has really fed the actor. And I totally miss it. It totally has given me that hunger again of like, we got to do more plays. We got to do more plays. And that's really where I want my focus to go. And I'm not focusing on bar shows. I mean, it's great. I have to pay the rent.
Sure.
And I want to get them, but I'm trying to get more like cabaret spaces and theaters. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. So you don't really miss much the idea of the out of drag you doing roles or performing. Do
No,
you
I mean,
do you still have those desires at all?
yes, but not overwhelming. I
Mm-hmm.
do have an agent that sends me out. I get some auditions out of drag.
Mm-hmm.
But I've just, I put so much. Look, someone said, "Oh, we want you." If I got something out of drag, great, great. But I would never stop performing in drag.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
No, I
mean,
can.
it makes me too happy. And
Yeah.
so, I have a
And
list of things, a book of ideas and things that I want to do. I want to do Hedda Gabler. I want
oh,
to do the Three Sisters with all drag queens. So
wow.
there's a whole list of things. So I would never stop performing as Sherry, but I don't have this like pining need to act out of drag.
Yeah.
But I'm not opposed to it.
That's a beautiful way to put it because that I can see with all the projects you've got going. Your variety show, by the way, stellar. And I am definitely a lover of the Carol Burnett show. That was one of the just normal things that happened in our household.
Yeah.
And you just never saw anything like it. There were other variety shows, all kinds of celebrities had their variety shows, but there was something about the Carol Burnett show. And Mackie. Now, I was a kid who didn't even understand what I was looking at, but there was something about
Oh my God.
there was something about those outfits, and she was this amazing thing in this amazing outfit, and then she go into all these characters and all this wackiness. So that little part of glam, that was when I was a kid, that was one of the first times I ever saw anyone combine glam with comedy.
Absolutely. I mean, I think even Cher is like a perfect example where
Yes.
if you really go back and watch the shows, here's like just the most sexy, gorgeous, glam, over the top Bob Mackie creature who
Right.
was not to be ugly or silly looking.
Right. And would
And
do
certainly Carol Burnett wasn't either, but Cher, I'm just like, Cher is all gorgeous, and then she was turn around and just be like goofy, kooky
Right.
clown.
Didn't have a problem with being the clown. Sort of like something that I love about Betty Davis is that, she could be the glamour puss and all of that, but she would also get down gritty and ugly and
Funny.
dirty,
Baby Jane.
Yeah. But
Carol Burnett was the best. It's still my ultimate source of inspiration. And obviously, I think the first thing I did, the first kind of big show I did in New York City in like 1992 was with this drag queen named Ebony Jet, who's now in San Francisco. And do you remember Ebony? Yeah, Ebony Jet, who is like the hot queen in New York in 1992 when I started. She was really young and really pretty and sang live, gorgeous voice. And so I was like, we need to do a show together. So we did it. We created a show. It was called Lower East Side Lesbian Jungle Fever, where I was kind of like the white trash neighbor and she was like the black home girl. And we were fighting and fighting and fighting. And then we fell in love. And it was really kind of different at that time in New York, for the drag shows. First of all, it was a scripted, show with other characters and then all live singing. And RuPaul came down. This was like right when Supermodel came out or right before, but she was certainly like, one of the top queens of New York City.
Sure.
Came downstairs after the show and walked right to me. She's like, you grew up watching Carol Burnett, didn't you? And I was like, yes.
Ru peeped it? Watching your show.
Clocked it immediately. Yes.
That is bad. What a wonderful homage to have one of your peers recognize it.
Totally.
Oh my God, Sherry, I don't want to keep you too long because I know you got things to do. But I mean, I'll hold on to you as long as I can.
I got a little more time.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Like now, Tawdry Adventures. Now, you may want to save some for the memoirs, I'm sure. But what do you think? Like after you got into drag, would you say? I'm just curious as to some of the Tawdry Adventures, New York style, Europe style, California style. Just tawdry, and because your character is tawdry.
It was easier to be tawdry back then. Now, with the everyone's on a phone, and with the apps and all of that, you can just order in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't have to leave your house. Back in the 90s, you had to go out to be social, to see a show, to get laid, whatever. You had to leave your house.
That's so true. It's a different thing.
It was a little easier to be tawdry. And back then, the men who like special girls knew where to go. Like, they would show up at the drag shows. So anytime you're like, I was at Barracuda doing a show and I'd see some guy standing in the dark corner, I'm like, he's not here for the show.
Yeah. Now, did you ever did you ever find yourself in a dangerous situation? Has that ever happened to you where you were, kind of right on the edge?
Yeah, nothing like where I took someone home and it turned luckily, nothing like that. But certainly, I mean, in New York City in the early 90s, oh my God, yeah. I lived on Avenue C and you could not get a taxi or anything. I mean, I had to I would be in drag and I'm like, okay, take a breath. We're going to walk as fast as we can to the pyramid on Avenue A.
Oh my God.
And just whoosh, out the door.
Oh.
And I mean, I've had bottles thrown at me, people chasing me. Candace Kane and I were once in West Hollywood, chased down the street by guys with baseball bats.
In West Hollywood?
In West Hollywood. On Larrabee Street.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've had some close calls that were scary, but I've always had kind of a good sense. I mean, I've never, whatever, like I said, I mean, I would take guys into the apartment building and be like, you can't come in the apartment because my roommates are asleep. So just going to do it right here in the hallway. All right, and then go.
Practical, rational.
Practical prostitution. Yes.
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. These kids today don't know about practical prostitution.
And now it's funny because I've had like people be like, "Aren't you nervous having someone over to your house that you met on the app?" And I'm like, "No, it actually makes me feel safer because I've got a paper trail. Like, if
Right.
what are they going to do? If they, hurt me or rob me or kill me or whatever, they're not going to get far."
Right, exactly. He's like,
It's
God,
not
I have their
anonymous.
number right here.
Yeah, exactly. It's not some anonymous off the street thing. But
Right. Oh my
anyway, you
God.
have to be careful, of course. I'm just
Hey,
kidding.
now, can you tell me anything about like, dark times and how you kind of emerge from that? Because like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, we are all going through different things at different times, and there had to be some really low times. And when you hit those, what were they, and how did you crawl out of the abyss?
Well, I mean, of course, it's always up and down, everybody in life.
Sure.
I mean, I've had ups and downs personally, and then certainly career-wise. The career-wise ones are a little easier to navigate because sometimes you just hit a wall and it's like, okay, that door is closed. Let's look for another door. And I'm able to pivot pretty well, I think. And I think I have a good sense of how to adapt and evolve, meaning like with Drag Race, technology, all of that. Like, how do you just have to constantly keep adapting and evolving to remain relevant and have a career doing this. You have to.
So
I think I'm pretty good at that. The personal stuff, I feel like the darkest times were always when I was in a relationship, and I'm just now, I literally know that I'm healthier and happier single. Period. And a lot of that is on me, not necessarily on the other person. So
no, I hear you.
I get real OCD. I get real like, okay, this project, and the next show is my project, and everything's about that. And when I have a boyfriend, they kind of become the project. You know what I mean?
I knew.
So
yeah,
it's whatever. I accept responsibility, and I know that now. I know I don't need a boyfriend. I'm so much happier and healthier. If something happens spontaneously, organically, great, but I'm not looking for it at all.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I mean, because that like mentally that must bring you a lot of clarity.
Yeah,
about
I
yourself.
never was the type to sit around like, "No, I wish I had a boyfriend." Never. I never was. And both of my long-term relationships were kind of spontaneous. But it was the highs and then the lows. And then I was like, maybe I'm the lowest common denominator here, part of the problem. I mean, maybe my choices aren't the best, but I'm certainly part of the problem. I know that. So I've been single now for 10 years, and it's been great. I have my friends, I have my family. I can have sex if I want to have sex. I don't have to compromise. It's good.
That's pretty epic. That's awesome, because I know a lot of people, struggle, and I think finding it's so cliche to say, but living your truth, is really, that's what it sounds like. I wanted to ask you, in terms of your career, now obviously you get a lot of your inside stuff to the outside through Sherry and through the different things that you do with Sherry, the writing and the writing and things you do with other people. Is there a creative outlet that maybe people don't know about that you do? Like, do you have other creative outlets, like other artistic things that get that stuff from the inside to the outside?
Probably not. I mean,
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm
Just curious.
I can't draw a straight line. I mean, I'm a lousy visual artist. And someone like Joey Arias went to art school. I mean, Joey can paint and draw. portrait that Joey did hanging in my room. I mean, Joey's an amazing artist, and Jackie Beat too. Jackie can sit down and just sketch and draw. I'm like, she's like a really, really great artist. And now Raven O is painting. I do not have that. I love playing the guitar. It's not something I've really incorporated into my act. I've done it a couple times, like a song here or there, and I'm not great at it all. It makes me really happy. And sometimes I'm just like, I just need a half hour to sit here and make some music without having to think about anything else, with no goal, no agenda, just that's kind of my zen.
But so there it is. That's the one. That's the thing. It's the music through the guitar. Because I mean, we know you as a musician, as a singer and a performer, and with all of that. But that part of you, that's a beautiful, intimate with yourself way to just get some things out, just kind of play whatever without the without the need for it to be anything outside of that moment.
Exactly. No agenda. I started studying guitar, taking guitar lessons like 1 year before my Lady Gaga Bad Romance parody came out on YouTube, which was definitely like a turning point. Like it just opened 1,000 doors that weren't open before. But I started, and I was like, okay, you know what? I am going to learn how to read music. That's my thing. I have to learn how to read music and play the guitar. And I was doing so well. And then all of a sudden I was so busy that just kind of exploded that it kind of fell to the side. So I can play certain things if it's open chords, but
but still,
I want to get back to it and take guitar lessons again. So maybe I will.
Now, before I let you go, I do want to ask you about hair, makeup, and wardrobe. Because your hair is always on point and fabulous and wonderful and lovely.
I can take zero credit for the hair and the clothes. Zero. Everything is outsourced. Billy Lamore in Los Angeles does all of my wigs. He's brilliant. Billy Lamore. And then clothes are, I still work a lot with David Dalrymple in New York City and Mark Happel. And then out here, Karen Hutchinson does a lot of the clothes for me and Jackie, costumes, and Danimal, these really, really creative, fun people. Or like Bianca gave me this caftan.
Oh, that is fantastic.
That was to the floor, and I said, "Is this a gift? Can I cut it in half?" And she's like, "Do whatever you want." So, of course, I had to cut it in half.
It's bad. Oh, well, we have to see those Sherry Vine legs.
Yeah. Now I'm like, look here. Don't look here. Look here.
Speaking of wardrobe, would you do the Golden Girlz? And of course, we know you play Blanche, Deborah. Who else would you play?
We have found the good wills out here in Los Angeles are a gold mine for that. I mean, I have just been like, let me just stop here and have a peek and walk out with like, this is gold. I would say like 90% of things I wear as Blanche have come from Goodwill.
Because I've seen you do it twice. And I was like, the clothing, you guys just nail it.
And now there's people that love the show so much. Like Alaska has done it twice, and she's such a Golden Girlz fan that she'll just be like, I found a floral pantsuit for you, I'm buying. And so people kind of or Bianca, certainly. Bianca, every city she goes, she wakes up that morning and she's like, hits the thrift stores.
No kidding.
And she will come home with like a suitcase of like, I found all your clothes for your next Golden Girl.
That is just epic. I think that that kind of fun is so needed. Like when you need that fun that we get from you, I can imagine where you get it from, but what are some of the places where you get that kind of thing that we get from you? I mean, because it's just a delight when you see it, like some of the people that you admire, not just admire, but the ones that just get you when you go see them live.
I mean, I love drag, and even like in Puerto Vallarta, I went to every single show. and I just want to see everything. And it's, you know, I don't even rate it what's best, what's worst. It's like I can find something enjoyable about all of it. I just love drag. But certainly Lady Bunny is the funniest.
You have the
ever. I love Dina Martina. Jackie, I always say Jackie Beat is the funniest in a smart way, and Bunny is the funniest in a stupid way, which is a compliment.
I know what you mean by that. I don't. That's brilliant. That is really brilliant. Oh my gosh! So today, your agenda, you're performing, or you're just hanging out?
Yeah, I'm hosting drag brunch at Precinct downtown LA. It's called Over Easy, and I'm just the guest. I don't do it regularly, but if it's a Sunday and I'm home, it's actually really super fun. It's always sold out. Make decent money and some tips, and I get to hang out with girls that I love. Like today, Pandora Box is one of the guests who's a really good friend of mine, and then, honey, I'm home at 3 p.m.
Right after having a fabulous day.
Oh my God, are you kidding? It's great. I'll get out of drag. I might run to like 5 o'clock yoga, and then I'm going to have something to eat and watch TV and go to bed at grandma time.
That's what I'm saying. That is awesome. You do keep fit. Speaking of yoga, you have kept pretty dang fit. Did the pandemic put any take you sideways like a lot of people? You know, a little bit off your game?
This is a true story. This is true. I was living in this house with Mario Diaz when the pandemic hit, and we were just like, okay, I guess we're going to watch a lot of TV. And it was the first time in 20 years that I wasn't jet lagged. I was sleeping well, and I was actually probably healthier than I've ever been in my whole life. But I said, I'm going to eat what I want to eat when I want to eat it, and I don't care. And when I hit 160 pounds, then I'm going to have the fittest, snatchest body I've ever had in my life, you know, in my 50s. So that's exactly what happened. I was like, ice cream, popcorn, whatever, And then one day I was like, I weigh 160. That's the most I've ever weighed in my life. I'm going to get back down to 145 and be snatched. And Mario and I would get up in the morning and do like online dance outside in the backyard. I was doing yoga. I got ordered weights on Amazon. I was working out like 3 times a day.
Oh my God.
And I just got so snatched. And I was like, oh my God, I look better now in my 50s than I have ever looked in my life. It didn't last long because once I started traveling again, thank God, it was like, right. Oh, there she goes.
3 a.m. dinners.
I mean, I do not have an eating disorder. We make jokes, which is not funny, of course, but we make jokes like, she doesn't eat. I do eat, and I take care of myself, but I watch what I eat and I work out every day.
Oh, well, it shows, and we appreciate it.
Like, it's harder, honey, as you get older. It's like, oh, those love handles are real persistent.
What exercise do you do despite your hatred of it?
There's this 8-minute video. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's so sickening gorgeous. He's huge on YouTube. It's 8 minutes. And, it's 4 minutes. It's 8 exercise, 30 seconds each. It's literally 4 minutes. And it's the hardest 4 minutes you can imagine. And you do it before you go to bed. Because that allegedly then you're sleeping and burning fat at the same time. So anyway, I do that at night before I go to bed. It's only 4 minutes, and it's so like, oh, I don't want to do it. And I make myself do it, and then I'm like, okay. And it's hard.
That's amazing. Now, pandemic-wise, obviously nobody was doing much work. When you had to get back in it all, you know, I mean, those shoes must have...
I joke about that in the show. I'm always like, my feet were like, we thought we were done. What happened? I was nervous. The first show I did in front of a live audience, a year and a half later, almost a year and a half, it was like May of 2021. So that's a year and 2 months. Was in Palm Springs at Oscars, the first one. And I was shaking. I was so nervous.
Oh my God.
And then when I heard after the opening song applause, I froze for a minute because I was like, oh right, because you don't get
Oh,
to hear applause on all the Zoom shows. I
right.
did 16 months worth of Zoom shows and stuff and Instagram and whatever, but you don't get any feedback. So that was the first, I was like, oh, it was great.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. Well, I just want to really, again, I just want to thank you for taking the time because I know you're a busy gal,
Honey,
and I
my
really just
pleasure.
oh, just appreciate
I wish I was
seeing.
sitting right there in that purple room with you.
Yeah, I got a little place in Mexico City, just being here. I was in Asia for a while, and then in the U.S. for a bit. I'll be back in the U.S. this summer, and who knows where you're going to be, but we'll check your calendar. Uh,
We'll find each other.
Absolutely. So, all right, take care, and I'll see you soon.
You too, darling. Take care.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Uh, my heart is full because I've seen you. I'm one of those people in the world who has watched you for 30 years that you don't know.
Thank you for that.
You know, we adore you. I really want to thank Miss Sherry Vine for stopping by today. If you want to see more, go to sherryvine.com to see where she's going to be next, or just go to her YouTube channel. You will not be disappointed. You know what? We always have humor in the most serious shit.
Hey, that's how we get by.
That's how we survive it. But really,
Hmm.
there is part of that mountain.